Imagine crossing the border into Canada and realizing this looks more like New York than New York does. Canadian cities are adding tech jobs 3 times faster than Silicon Valley. Their populations are exploding. Their economies are booming. And no, this isn't about healthcare or politeness anymore. This is about money, power, opportunity, and a massive shift happening right under America's nose. While America argues about immigration policies, Canada is quietly poaching its best minds. And it's working. Picture this: packed U-Hauls heading north, tech giants opening massive campuses in cities you've barely heard of, and your neighbor, yeah, your actual neighbor, already planning their exit. The data is shocking. In the last 3 years, over 126,000 Americans applied for Canadian work permits. That's double the number from 5 years ago. These aren't random people. These are software engineers from Google, doctors from Johns Hopkins, entrepreneurs who built companies in Austin and San Francisco. They're leaving, and they're not coming back. But here's what's really insane. It's not just individuals. Entire companies are relocating, shutting down their American headquarters and moving everything north. The equipment, the teams, the future. So let us talk about the 6 Canadian cities that are about to overtake America by 2030. And I'm not talking about catching up. I'm talking about leaving major American cities in the dust. Starting with number 6. Oil money. That's what Calgary was known for. Black gold, roughnecks, cowboys in suits closing billion-dollar deals. But something insane is happening. That oil money, it's transforming into tech billions. And they're not just competing with American cities, they're crushing them. Calgary is now paying software engineers more than Austin, Texas, more than Denver, sometimes even more than Seattle. Let that sink in. American energy companies are hemorrhaging talent to Canadian competitors because the money's better, the cost of living is lower, and the opportunity is exploding. Here's a real example. A senior engineer at ExxonMobil in Houston was making $185,000 a year. Couldn't afford a house, commuting 2 hours a day. Then Calgary-based Suncor offered him $210,000, relocation paid, and a mortgage rate so good he bought a 4-bedroom house in 6 months. He's never looking back. And it's not just individuals. Entire teams are jumping ship. In 2023, an entire 40-person data science unit left a Texas energy company for Calgary. Just walked out. The company tried to counteroffer. Too late. They were already gone. Here's the wait what moment. Calgary now has more AI startups per capita than Boston. Boston, the city that birthed some of America's greatest tech companies. MIT's backyard. And Calgary is beating it. Why? Because Calgary did something brilliant. They took decades of oil infrastructure money and poured it into tech incubators. The government created a program called the Calgary Innovation Coalition. If you're a tech startup, they give you office space, mentorship, and access to venture capital. No strings, no equity grabs, just support. American cities are still arguing about zoning laws. Calgary's already built the future. Picture this: snow-capped Rockies in your office window. A 6-figure salary. And that salary? It actually buys you a house. Not a 1-bedroom condo. Not a studio apartment with paper-thin walls. A house with a yard and a garage. The average home price in Austin is $550,000. In Calgary, $475,000. And Calgary salaries are higher. Do the math. It's not even close. But Calgary's just warming up. Because what's happening in city number 5 is making Wall Street nervous. You probably think of Ottawa as boring government buildings and bureaucrats, right? Parliament Hill, maple syrup, Mounties. Wrong. Ottawa is becoming the cybersecurity capital of North America. And they're not just competing, they're outbidding Washington, D.C. for defense contractors. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. The Canadian government is offering instant work permits while the U.S. has 5-year backlogs. A cybersecurity expert from Virginia applied for a job in Ottawa. Got the offer on Monday. Had his work permit by Friday. That same person had been waiting 14 months for his U.S. security clearance renewal. Imagine doing Pentagon-level security work, but you can actually afford to live there. Lower taxes, universal health care, same salary, sometimes higher. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. NATO is moving cyber operations to Ottawa over American cities. Not because of politics, because of talent. Because Canada made it easier to recruit the best people, and America made it harder. There's a company called Shopify. You've probably used it. It's headquartered in Ottawa. worth over $80 billion. And they're hiring like crazy. They brought in 1,200 employees last year. Most of them, former Amazon, Google, and Microsoft workers from Seattle and San Francisco. Why'd they leave? Shopify offers full remote work, competitive salaries, and something American companies can't match anymore: stability. No layoff cycles. No mass firings announced on Twitter. Just steady, reliable growth. The Canadian government also created something called the Global Talent Stream. If you're a skilled tech worker, you can get approved for a work permit in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. In America, the H-1B visa process takes months, sometimes years, and there's no guarantee you'll get approved. The lottery system is a joke. So talented engineers are looking north. And Ottawa is ready. There's another factor nobody's talking about. Ottawa is close to the US border, but far enough away that it feels stable. Americans are moving there because it feels safe. No mass shootings in schools. No political chaos every election cycle. Just boring, predictable governance. And right now, boring sounds really, really good. The power balance is shifting, and it's accelerating. While Silicon Valley celebrates its past, Montreal is building the future. Google's AI headquarters didn't choose Mountain View. They chose Montreal. Microsoft, Meta, Samsung, they're all there. Not satellite offices. Major operations. Thousands of employees. Billions in investment. Why? Because Montreal is becoming the Paris of AI. And there's a secret weapon America can't compete with: French. Montreal attracts European talent that wouldn't even consider American cities. Engineers from France, Belgium, Switzerland. They can move to Montreal and feel at home. The culture fits. The language fits. And the opportunity? It's better than anything in Europe or America. You studied AI at MIT, poured your soul into your thesis, lived on ramen for 4 years, and now? The job offers from Montreal are 40% higher than anything in Boston or San Francisco. Let me give you a real example. A machine learning researcher graduated from Carnegie Mellon in 2022, top of his class. Got offers from Google in Mountain View for $160,000 and Meta in Montreal for $195,000 Canadian, which converts to about $145,000 US. Sounds like Google wins, right? Wrong. Rent in Mountain View for a 1-bedroom apartment, $3,200 a month. Rent in Montreal for a 2-bedroom apartment in a great neighborhood, $1,400 a month. After rent, taxes, and cost of living, the Montreal offer left him with $30,000 more in his pocket every year. He's in Montreal now. Just bought a condo. That would have taken him a decade in California. Picture cobblestone streets, world-class universities, a thriving art scene. You can walk to work, grab fresh croissants on Sunday morning, see live jazz at night. And your rent? Half what you'd pay in San Francisco. Half. Montreal combined culture with economic power, and the result is unstoppable. But there's something else happening. Montreal has become the global hub for AI ethics research. While American companies race to build AI without guardrails, Montreal is figuring out how to do it responsibly. Yoshua Bengio, one of the godfathers of AI, is based there. He's training the next generation of researchers. And they're staying in Montreal because the ecosystem supports them. The Quebec government created a $100 million AI fund. If you're researching AI, they'll fund you. No corporate strings. No pressure to monetize immediately. Just pure research. American universities can't compete with that anymore. They're too dependent on corporate money. But wait. The OECD just released data showing Canada's brain gain is literally America's brain drain. The numbers don't lie. For every skilled worker Canada loses, they gain 3. For every skilled worker America gains, they lose 2. That's not a trend. That's a collapse. And the top 3 cities? That's where things get really uncomfortable for the US. Edmonton, frozen Alberta, the city nobody outside Canada thinks about. Except now, everyone's thinking about it. Because Edmonton is becoming North America's renewable energy hub. While Texas debates energy policy, Edmonton is building the future. Oil derricks are being replaced by wind farms and battery factories. And the investment? It's massive. Here's what happened. In 2021, a little-known bill passed in Alberta called the Renewable Electricity Act. It streamlined permits for green energy projects. What used to take 3 years now takes 6 months. American states are still drowning in red tape. Alberta said, screw it, let's build. The results? Staggering. Over $15 billion in green energy investment flooded into Edmonton in 2 years. Solar farms, wind turbines, hydrogen production facilities. And the jobs followed. Over 40,000 new jobs created in the renewable sector alone. Major U.S. manufacturers are relocating to Edmonton. Not for the weather, for the energy costs, for the government support, for the speed of permits and construction. There's a company called X Energy. They make advanced battery systems for electric vehicles. They were based in Detroit. Spent 4 years trying to get permits to build a new factory. For years, endless environmental reviews, community meetings, political roadblocks. They moved the whole operation to Edmonton. Broke ground in 8 months. Factory operational in 18 months. They're now hiring 800 workers and expanding. The CEO gave an interview. He said, "In America, everyone talks about the green revolution. In Edmonton, they're actually doing it." Picture this. You run a clean tech startup. California regulations are strangling you. Every permit costs $50,000 and takes a year. Texas doesn't care about green energy. They'll fund oil and gas. But solar? Forget it. But Edmonton? They're rolling out the red carpet and writing checks. The Alberta government created something called the Technology Innovation and Emissions Reduction Fund. $750 million available for clean tech companies. You pitch your idea, and if it's good, they fund it. No equity, no ownership, just a low-interest loan you pay back when you're profitable. American states can't do that. They're too busy fighting culture wars. There's another advantage. Edmonton has cheap land. Lots of it. A factory that would cost $80 million to build in California costs $35 million in Edmonton. Same factory, same output, half the price. And energy costs? Alberta has some of the cheapest electricity in North America. A manufacturing plant that spends $2 million a year on energy in Ohio spends $800,000 in Edmonton. America's debating. Canada's building. And every day that gap widens. The gateway city that became the destination. For decades, Vancouver was where you landed before heading to Seattle or San Francisco. A pit stop. A layover. Not anymore. While U.S.-China tensions freeze American growth, Asian investment is flooding into Vancouver. Billionaires are choosing Vancouver over Seattle, over Los Angeles, over San Francisco. Let me explain what's happening. Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Taiwanese investors don't trust America anymore. Tariffs change every election. Regulations shift constantly. Assets get frozen for political reasons. It's chaos. But Canada? Stable, predictable, boring in the best way possible. So billions, actual billions, are pouring into Vancouver real estate, tech startups, and infrastructure. And it's transforming the city. Vancouver's tech sector grew 35% in the last 3 years. Compare that to San Francisco, which grew 8%. Seattle grew 12%. Vancouver is lapping them. Your startup can't get funding in the Bay Area. VCs are tightening up. Risk tolerance is gone. Everyone's scared. But Vancouver VCs? They're calling you. They want you. They're ready to invest. There's a venture capital firm in Vancouver called Vantage Capital. They manage over $200 million. Their entire strategy is funding American entrepreneurs who move to Vancouver. They're literally paying people to leave the U.S. One founder told me his story. He had a SaaS company in Austin. Couldn't get funded. Pitched 47 VCs. Got rejected by all of them. Moved to Vancouver. Pitched 3 firms. Got funded in 2 weeks. Raised $3 million. Same company. Same pitch. Different country. Different result. Picture ocean views and mountain hiking trails minutes from downtown. You finish work at 5 p.m. and you're on a mountain trail by 5:30. You can ski in the morning and paddleboard in the afternoon. It's insane. And the business environment? It actually wants you to succeed. Immigration policies don't treat entrepreneurs like criminals. There's a startup visa program. If you have a viable business idea and backing from a designated Canadian investor, you get permanent residency. Not a temporary work visa. Permanent residency. America doesn't have anything close to that. And the proof? Real estate. Vancouver commercial space now costs more than most American cities. That's not speculation. That's the market screaming that something fundamental has changed. Office space in downtown Vancouver, $45 per square foot. Downtown Seattle, $42 per square foot. Why would Vancouver be more expensive unless demand is through the roof? It's not just one advantage. It's a perfect storm of geography, policy, timing, and vision. And Vancouver has one more massive advantage: time zone. It's Pacific time, same as Silicon Valley, same as Los Angeles. So when Vancouver companies work with Asian partners, they can sync up in the evening. When they work with American clients, they're in the same time zone. Perfect positioning. But none of that compares to number one. Toronto's GDP growth is outpacing New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago combined. Read that again. Combined. Walk through Toronto's financial district right now, and you'll hear more American accents than Canadian ones. Bay Street versus Wall Street. And Bay Street is winning. American banks aren't opening branches in Toronto anymore. They're opening headquarters. Not because it's cheaper, because it's better. Goldman Sachs moved 300 employees to Toronto last year. JP Morgan moved 250. Morgan Stanley moved 400. These aren't back office jobs. These are traders, analysts, and executives. Why? Talent. Canada's immigration system makes it easy to hire the best people from anywhere. America's system makes it impossible. So banks that want to stay competitive are moving to Toronto. The Toronto Stock Exchange is poaching IPOs from NASDAQ. Startups are choosing Toronto over New York for their public debuts because the regulatory environment is faster, simpler, and more founder-friendly. In 2023, 12 companies chose Toronto over New York for their IPO. 12. That's not an accident. That's a pattern. In immigration, top graduates can get work permits in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. In America, try 2 years. Maybe. There's something called the global skills strategy. If a Canadian company wants to hire you, and you have skills they need, you're approved in 10 business days. No lottery, no waiting, no uncertainty, just fast, efficient processing. Compare that to the H-1B visa in America. 85,000 visas available, over 780,000 applications. Your odds of getting selected? About 11%. And even if you win the lottery, processing takes months. Talented people don't want to gamble with their careers, so they're going to Toronto. Picture a skyline with more construction cranes than Seattle, Austin, and Miami combined. That's Toronto right now, not in 5 years. Right now, there are 213 active construction projects in downtown Toronto. Residential towers, office buildings, mixed-use developments. The city is exploding. And the population? Toronto added 340,000 people in the last 3 years. Where'd they come from? About 40% are international immigrants. But here's the crazy part. 18% are Americans. Americans are moving to Toronto in record numbers. And they're not coming back. The best part? Most Americans have no idea this is happening. Turn on the news in the US, and it's all culture war nonsense. Nobody's talking about the brain drain. Nobody's talking about the economic shift. Nobody's paying attention. But the data doesn't lie. Toronto's unemployment rate, 5.8%. New York's unemployment rate, 6.5%. Los Angeles, 7.2%. Chicago, 7.8%. Toronto's median household income, $87,000 Canadian, about $65,000 US. But here's the key, cost of living adjusted. Toronto residents have more disposable income than New York residents. Healthcare is free. Childcare is subsidized. University is affordable. A 4-year degree at the University of Toronto costs about $30,000 total. For the same education, maybe worse. So families are moving to Toronto because the math makes sense. You can build wealth. You can save money. You can actually retire before you're 80. There's another factor. Safety. Toronto's violent crime rate is a fraction of major American cities. You can walk downtown at 2 a.m. and feel safe. Try that in Chicago. Try that in Philadelphia. Good luck. People want to raise families in places where they don't worry about their kids getting shot at school. Toronto offers that, and Americans are noticing. This isn't about 6 cities. This is about a 150-year power structure flipping upside down. America built the 20th century, dominated it, defined it. 2 world wars, the internet, Hollywood, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, the American century. But Canada might own the 21st. And the terrifying part? Most Americans are still debating whether it's even possible. They'll say, Canada's too small. Canada's too cold. Canada doesn't innovate. Meanwhile, Toronto's building more than Austin. Vancouver's funding more startups than Boston. Montreal's leading AI research, while Silicon Valley fires researchers to cut costs. The signs are everywhere. Empty office towers in Detroit, packed ones in Toronto, abandoned factories in Ohio, new ones being built in Edmonton, talent fleeing San Francisco, landing in Vancouver. That's not a future prediction. That's right now. And here's the part that should terrify American policymakers. It's accelerating. Every month, more people leave. Every quarter, more companies relocate. Every year, the gap widens. Canada isn't waiting for America to collapse. They're building an alternative, a better system, faster immigration, cheaper healthcare, affordable education, stable politics, and the world is noticing. If you're a talented engineer in India, where do you want to go? America, where you might wait 5 years for a visa and get deported if you lose your job. Or Canada, where you're approved in weeks and get a path to citizenship. If you're a founder in Brazil with a great startup idea, where do you incorporate? Delaware, where regulations are complex and lawyers are expensive. Or Toronto, where the government actively helps you succeed. If you're a family in the US with young kids, where do you want to live? A place where school shootings are routine and healthcare bankrupts you? Or a place where education is strong and healthcare is free? The choice is getting easier, and more people are choosing Canada. So here's what I want to know. Are you already planning your move north, or do you think America can still turn this around? Because in 5 years, this video will either look prophetic or paranoid. Drop a comment with which one you think it'll be.